Hi YouTube, we're back with the L-39 Albatros build part 3 here. Where we last left off, we were pushing this bamboo skewer into the vertical stabilizer to help to add some support, given the fact that we added the servo. We're going to turn on a different light now. We were having trouble seeing where it was penetrating to. And so we were just kind of working on getting that pushed through, so we'll pick that back up. Just kind of got to work it slow. It's a little gut-wrenching to do this, though. It does feel a whole lot more sturdy now that I've got that pushed in there. A lot more sturdy. Just a little bit at a time. You can see where it is now. So if we're there, I'd like to get all the way to the end. It's very difficult to tell how we are on this axis, though. If you're having trouble holding on to it, there is another trick too. But it's a lot more scary, and that is to take a pair of needle nose pliers and push it in. Because then your fingers don't slip. So we're going to try that. That's a good way to get impaled by these things too, in case you're wondering. If you were thinking of different ways that you can stab yourself with a bamboo skewer, that would be a good way. Okay, so, and the other thing you can do that works real nice, and I'm forgetting about it right now, is you can take and use some sort of a tool like this that will help you get a better grip on it. See, it's coming out. That's what we want to avoid. But now that we've already protruded out, that might not be a bad thing, because I'm not going to be able to change the trajectory of that piece at this point. But what I can do now is I can take and put some glue in there. So what I need to do is I need to cut this almost flush, just enough so we can push in that last little bit, okay? But we don't want it to be pushed up so much that it penetrates outside, okay? So we'll cut, well, shot over there, I guess. I don't want to step on that. That would probably not feel very good. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll take this CA and we're really reluctantly going to back this up just a little bit. Whoops. Well, I was trying to pull it out with these side cutters. Just a little bit. Okay. I'm not going to use CA. CA doesn't always work so good for this. I'm going to use it's called mucilage. This is a large bottle. That's what the L stands for. Pops in your hand, not in your mouth. Long story behind that. If you saw the video, the bottle blew up in my hand. Okay, in case you're wondering what that has to do with. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, coat the tip about 3/4 of the way down, and then slip it in, and it will go all the way. Okay, take your needle nose pliers now, hold on to the thing, reposition at the end, push it in past the surface, and there you have it. Now you've got that nice strength that will bring to the vertical stabilizer. And then you can take your CA and you can run just a little teeny bit right there if you did have the misfortune of protruding through, which is no big deal. Give it a little kicker. And wipe it clean-ish. Okay? We also protruded through here, so we'll just go ahead and do one drip there. Just seal it off. You don't even really have to do that. Lick your finger, touch it to smooth, and dry it. Sweet. Okay, so now we're done with that. Now we can build the plane. So really, the first two videos and just the last little bit of this one are more to help you figure out how to get the rudder portion taken care of. The rest of this is going to be more conventional installs. So if you decide not to do the rudder, this is where you would start watching the video. So I'll try to make some remarks on the description. Okay, so this thing can be glued now at any point. Should be no big deal. I'd like to use pops in your hand, not in your mouth on this. That stuff works really nice. It stays somewhat rubbery. This is another bottle. It's a little bit newer bottle. I accidentally opened a second one. Do not open these unless you intend to use it. Okay. It does not stay forever. It doesn't stay fresh forever. So you want to be not just to be a cheapskate, because you don't want to lose a whole huge bottle of this stuff, because it works good. It's good quality stuff. Good quality Chinese glue. Okay. So we're just gonna, oh man, it's coming out really reluctantly right now. Probably because I haven't used this for a little bit. Okay, so get it on there like that. And if you really want it to be nice and sturdy, which I do, especially on the horizontal stab, such an important portion of the plane, okay? You'll get a little bit on both surfaces, okay? You don't need to go like super thick with it. It's like almost like rubber cement, if you guys use that as kids in school. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a Q-tip. I've got a Q-tip right there. And then you're going to spread this, just make sure you kind of get it to touch the surface. You don't need it to be in every exact spot. But, you know, the better you spread it to the different components, the better it's going to work. And it does work a lot better if you can do that. Now you can let this cook for a little bit, meaning just don't do anything with it for a few minutes. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hook up this linkage. This will be a lot easier to do this now. So these things just snap down and then they slip off. I'm actually going to go into the innermost hole, and I don't think the manufacturer says to do the innermost hole. Okay, so I'm just going to put that down, push it. Then I'm going to lift it, and then I'm going to push it down again. And that's really all you got to do, and that thing will be just rock solid. Just give it about 10 minutes, and you should be able to be up in the air, to be perfectly honest. Okay? So now let's get this thing figured out while we're down here. Okay, so slip that on. Gosh, I had trouble with this dry fitting this before too. I don't know why I'm having such a heck of a time on this one particular step. Should be such an easy step too, guys. But while that glue is fresh, it does make it a lot easier than once it's set up. So get it done right now. And don't waste any time. It's kind of weird. It's almost like that control arm is thicker than they thought it was going to be. So far, guys, I gotta say this plane has been, I don't want to say it's like super impressive, but I've been happy with it so far. It's not a total junker, but I mean it's not like Horizon Hobby grade, which is, I mean, it's a lot cheaper, so of course it's not going to be. Come on. Oh, good. Got it that time. Okay, so it snapped on there. Okay, so now at this point I can recenter the horizontal stab. Okay, get that in position where you like it. Let it sit. Now you could take and do a little bit of tape on there if you were really paranoid about that thing slipping. You can also use a little bit of CA to hold it in the exact position you want, which is a trick that I will occasionally do. But you got to be careful. Kicker will degrade the performance of your mucilage. Pops in your hand, not in your mouth. So be careful with that. Okay, so now this is going to help you to position things. Furthermore, Remember, you don't want to glue the front, you just want to glue the back. Okay? And also you need to remember that that thing is wiggly waggly, so I'm going to actually probably glue that some too. Okay? So just keeping track of where you want things to align. It's a little bit tempting to use CA on this, but I am going to resist the temptation to use CA on this, and I'm not going to. I'm going to use the pops in your hand, not in your mouth. It's going to be better for this application. Notice I'm just kind of putting it down in the crack there. Then I'm going to go up here just on the end, just on the tail, and I'm going to put a little bit on there. And then I'm going to take and run this down the length of it as well. And just very, very, very light on the sides. And why do we want to go very light? Because it's going to displace out of that crack, and then you're going to have a bunch of that glue on the sides. And it is hard to get this stuff off unless you use Kicker. And you're probably thinking, Kicker? What? Kicker takes it off? That's kind of weird. How'd you figure that out? By pure luck. See how sticky it is already? That's crazy how sticky that stuff is. And it dries. It does keep just a very limited amount of rubberiness to it. I mean, very limited. Extremely. I mean, one could argue it's not really rubbery much once it's set up. But it's more rubbery than CA. I can tell you that for sure. Okay, and you can just kind of roll it once you pull that out. Okay, so it looks like we should be about right now. Just kind of spreading that. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about, guys. It'll look like crap if you do that. Okay, now just do yourself a favor. Throw that in the garbage can. Don't try to reuse it like I would. Like a cheapskate would. Okay, push it in. Don't mess with it. Okay? Push it in. Try not to mess with it. Push it in. Get this tail portion stuck down. Okay, now on this, you want to make sure things are true-ish and square-ish, which is always contingent upon how true and square-ish it was before, which in my case it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. Okay, so now that we've got that stuck in there, I'm going to go ahead and do something crazy. I'm going to use medium CA, foam safe, and I'm going to glue. I'm just going to verify that this is tight, make sure my gap is even on all that stuff. And I'm going to run a seam of CA, a fairly thick seam of CA, okay? See that seam? It's pretty thick, pretty drastic. One sneeze. Achoo! Okay. Let it work for a second. It's still going to run if you're not careful. Okay, now double check your squareness as this is setting up. You're not going to get multiple chances at this. It's going to be one or two chances and you're done. Ooh, it's trying to separate. I want that seam of CA to look nice too, if I can get it to look nice. Okay. So far so good. Just letting it set up a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to hold this little tail member down. A little thinner. A little bit thinner application of CA. Wipe the tip off. One sneeze. Chew. Small sneeze. Let it set up. Guys, I don't like that. That's just stinchy. Makes me nervous. Okay, so now we can take this, now that that CA won't run, and we're just going to do the same thing. Different day, same thing. Now this is medium, so it's gap filling. And so we can get away with having a bit of a gap. One big sneeze that time. Because I didn't like, oh, that son of a gun, I ran into my vise. Did I damage it? Please no. I don't think I did. It's so easy to damage, and I about did it again. It's so easy to damage these little foam planes, guys. I had somebody today on the channel that was griping about how this isn't a build, and oh, your grandpa builds airplanes, which he does, and while all these things are true, it doesn't change anything. These things are still somewhat challenging. They're not hard. It's nothing like building a balsa wood plane, but it's like, you know, you broom the garage, but did you winnow down the handle of your own broom? Yeah, I didn't do that. I bought a broom at the store. Not that there's anything wrong with building balsa wood airplanes. There's just a lot of these on the market, and I like them. So maybe when I have some more time in my life, at some point in my life, when I don't have a bunch of young kids and a full-time plus job, then I will do that. But to disparage somebody who builds these things and calls them a build instead of an assembly video, get over yourself, people. Seriously. YouTube troll. Anyway, I'm going to pause the video and put you guys onto an outlet because I'm running out of battery now. Alright guys, we're going to continue this video here. Okay, so we got this C8 up. The vertical stabilizer, unfortunately, is not exactly perfectly true up and down. It's got a little bit of a twist to it. Maybe after a couple of flights, I'll be compelled to put another rod in there. But for now, I think I'm just going to see how it does. Except now that I sit and say that, if I were to try to straighten this, that would be a bit challenging. So I'd encourage you, if you have a mechanism, to straighten it before you get it glued on there. Okay, so we have our little pigtail here for the servo that's going to go to the rudder ultimately. We have to figure out a way to get from here, from wherever this plugs in, down in this general area or that general area. And obviously we don't want to be on the suction side of the EDF because it's going to pull air through and you don't want this to get sucked in. And we also don't want to be on top of this rail or this shelf, so we can go down here and then drop down and then under, and then it'll just chase with the other wires. Which incidentally, I am reminded that I need to get my soldering iron cooking, because we still need to put on an XT60 connector in this very airplane so that we can energize this with XT60 equipped batteries, which is what I use exclusively. So we need an extension cord, and just so you know, it did come with a Y cable, so I'm going to actually keep that for another project. And I'm just going to look through for my different extension cords. We've got long extension cords. To be honest with you, I don't think we're going to need that much extra length to make this reach up to the front. So I'm wondering if we can get away with one of these. I think these are 30 millimeter or 20 millimeter. So usually what I do is I'll just grab them out of the package. Now in this case, of course, we've got to get through under the wing. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit too short. You could conceivably use two of them. The long extension cord's probably going to be like way too long. These ones are male to male. These ones might be about right. You know, they say it's always better to have more than you need than not enough. Well, that is true, but when you start getting into the airplane world, you really got to be careful about that, because you'll add a lot of weight to your plane with your wires. So be cognizant of that and exercise restraint when you can. I know I'm not probably the best example of that, because look how much longer this one is, guys. That's way long. So it'll definitely reach us, because we got to double back around. I guess I don't want to build ends on it, so I think we'll just go with this for now. In this case, I had some sort of a label on this one, so I'll just find a different one that doesn't have the labels. These came off the ASW 28, I believe. So we'll just find yeah, this one. I always try to use a cable that's new if I can, rather than running the risk of having some sort of a complication come up. Okay, so these have a little snap so that they won't come undone, but I'll still go ahead and put a drip of CA or something on there, hot glue or CA, to really solidify that connection point. You'll notice I glued that wire out to the tip, and this is probably going to be fine with that, but I'll just double check here in a minute. So this needs to go under the EDF, and right now there's an electronic speed control under there, and so I may have to kind of slip that back a little bit or make a little extra large pocket. This would explain why they went with a 56mm instead of going with a bigger EDF. Because if you went with a 64mm, you'd have to really work to make all that stuff fit, guys. And by the way, this is a 40 amp UBC ESC for brushless motors, 2 through 4S LiPos. The BEC is 5 volts at 3 amps, which is really nice that they have a label on there for us instead of just leaving it to guesswork. I do not want to dismount this EDF at this point, so I can see there's a bit of a crack on the one side where I can possibly get my wire for the rudder through. So I'm just going to kind of open up the foam a little bit with this flat-bladed screwdriver. And we can go on either side with this. It doesn't really matter which one, which way we go with it. But it is going to be extremely awkward to do this, because even with access, you can see how tight of a spot we're going for. I think I'll get a really long screwdriver and see if I can reach it through. I could take the EDF out if I had to, but I never want to take an EDF out that I don't have to, because you almost always seem to run into stupid problems. Okay, so I'm just taking the screwdriver and just working forward a little bit in hopes of making a channel. And by the way, I kind of broke my own rules on this plane a little bit, in the aspect that I took and I'm doing a modification before I know that the plane needs it, and for that I apologize. Like I said, I usually don't do that. I fly the plane first, but in this case I figured this is going to be near impossible to get this wire through without taking the wing back off, and I just said, you know what, I don't even have any interest in finding out I was right. So I said, we'll just break the rules and do this first. Which again, I'd much rather know that it needs it first. But I can't tell you a plane that I've flown and thought, that plane doesn't need a rudder, except for the Delta Ray. The Delta Ray does not need a rudder. Very strange that I would say that too. Okay, going for some forceps here, because I'm having a heck of a time getting this wire through. I could also come in from the front, like this, and see I'm just kind of sighting down the tube for my visual references, my visual cues. And I could also come over here, like this, and see if I could move the wires to one side or the other. That's probably going to help a little bit. These steps always seem like they're going to be easier, and then you go and do them, and you're like, wow, that was a pain in the butt. Just spinning the screwdriver as I go. I don't want it to stick out the bottom of the plane. I really don't want that. That would be a huge bummer. I don't think it's going to do that in this case. Okay, so I can see there's a black wire in there, so that's my visual cue here as I flip this over. So I can take and slide those wires over. Get it at a pretty steep angle. I can't make the angle though. Maybe I can get the forceps in there since they've got an angled head on them. Okay. So I feel like maybe that would have added some progress for us. Let's see if I can manipulate this in there. Oh, it's extremely awkward, guys. I might just fight through this and then come right back to you. Alright guys, so I finally got a wire through there so that I can try to pull this thing back. And, well, I tell you what, it's been a lot harder than I figured it would be to get the servo wire through. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been longer than I wanted it to be. So now I can just take this thing, while holding it with forceps, I can kind of keep it in position. And then what you do is you'll take that little hook. There's a little hook in there. And you'll take and get this in a position to where that hook will hook onto one of the openings, one of the wires. So I got to lay it down to do it, but I wanted to show you what I was doing. This is very difficult to accomplish this task. Okay, so once you get that wire hooked onto one of the three wires, because you got your transmit, your signal, and you've got your ground and your power, and you can slip that down into the next to the ESC area, and then the EDF fan housing will actually kind of keep everything intact, held together, I believe. Boy, this is a real pain in the butt. I'm surprised how hard this one step is going to end up being, because everything else has been actually really, really easy. Okay, so now I got it started, so it's kind of working its way through. Now I just have to try to get a place where I can see what the heck is happening and if I'm damaging anything. Okay, I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to take this wire that I've got fed through and I'm going to lift it up so I can work on it a little bit more. And you just got to be careful you're not going to hit finished parts of your plane, because the wire will damage the foam. So then you can take and tape that on there, because I can't do it the easy way, which is just holding it on with the hook. We're getting fairly close to the end of this video, part 3 here. Okay, so I'm going to just hook it on from the center area there. I'm not actually slipped into any of the wire slots, if you will. And yeah, I'm just using regular clear tape. You could use electrical tape, but electrical tape is quite a bit thicker. Okay. So now we can hopefully please go through here nicely. Please go through. I don't want to fight it any more than I have to, you know. See, the big thing is you got to get underneath the housing of the EDF. And there's glue and stuff in there from where they glued everything together. So it's quite awkward. Because the wire fits through, but then the head of the connector doesn't want to go through very good. I'm going to make it go, but... Now, if you were fighting this at home, one thing I could recommend, and now that I'm almost through with it, is you can take off the end, the servo plug end, and that would make it a whole lot easier to get that through. Like in my case, I've got it through now. And it looks like it came through without damaging too much. I don't see any big, huge damage points. I see one little rip spot here. Just a little chunk of foam residue. Rip that out already, it's gone now. Okay, so perfect. So now we can take and tug that through, keeping it in a neat fashion, because we want it to be flat. Okay, so now that we've got that all together, we can go ahead and, I'm actually going to spin this wire a little bit. So I've had pretty good luck doing this. You'll just twist and rotate until you've got it flat, because you really want this thing to be flat. You do not want to block your ducted fan at all, not even a little bit. So that means that this thing's going to have to get glued in here. So that'll be where we'll start it up on the next video, because we're out of memory. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, part 4 coming right away on the L-39 Albatros by Rock Hobbies Cloud 9. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.